What is going on, guys? I am here with Eugene Napoleon, and I'm really excited to have him here as my guest today. We're going to talk some college football, talk some Mountaineer football, and yeah, how are you?
I'm blessed. I'm blessed, man. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on, man. Um, First, to get us started, um, if you want to tell some of the people what you've been up to lately.
Absolutely. Well, look, I wear many hats.
Yeah.
I'll start off by saying that I'm actually the CEO and president of my own record company for the last 27 years, Nap Vision Entertainment. It's home to my wife, who's a gold-selling, double platinum award-winning recording artist with 16 number one hit records. So you can see some of the gold and platinum plaques on the wall behind me.
Yeah.
So that in itself is a full-time job. I am a two-time best-selling author. I'm also a special education teacher for the past 24 years and a motivational speaker. So, like I said, I wear a few different hats.
Yeah.
But like you, I enjoy, absolutely love college sports. Obviously, WVU. You know,
Yeah.
so that's I spent a lot of time with that. My our son Brandon Napoleon is the corners coach at Sacred Heart University.
Oh, nice.
So definitely looking forward. He followed my footsteps many years ago. He wound up going to WVU for a few years. So Mountaineers run through and through in our household.
Yes. Well, I am right there with you. I born and raised in Morgantown, and I also go to school there now, so I am all Mountaineer 100%. So, I'm very excited to have you on. We can start by, did you watch the spring game this year?
It's
Or
Man, I wish we had a huge event here in our city in Rahway, New Jersey.
yeah.
It was the mayor's musical series. So it was our first time that our company linked with the city of Rahway, New Jersey, and our event was going on at the same time as a spring game, unfortunately. So I wound up missing it.
Gotcha.
But you already know, finding out as much as I could about it.
Yeah.
you know, uh,
Um, I
yeah,
was at the spring game, and one thing that I'm really excited about that I wanted to get your input on because it's the
sure.
position that you played, running back. We have four really good running backs on our depth chart this year, but we brought in a new offensive coordinator, and he's kind of
Right.
a air rated style
Uh huh.
coordinator. So with four good running backs, we got JT Daniels coming in. He came
Right.
from a team that used a lot of running backs at Georgia.
Right.
And do you think, even though we have an air-rated offensive coordinator, we're gonna utilize all these talented backs that we have?
Well, let me tell you something. It reminds me back in my era, we had four talented backs as well. Myself, A.B. Brown,
Yeah,
Andre Johnson, Craig Taylor, and then of course Super Number Nine, Major Harris at quarterback. And when you have that many backs, sometimes it's hard to get them the ball. Everybody has to be on the same page, and pretty much that team concept really does prevail when you have those type of talented backs. Now, I will say this: with a new offensive coordinator who understands, obviously he runs the air raid offense. There are packages and there are opportunities for backs to get carries, which will then also open up even more of a passing lane for your quarterback. So I think if it's balanced somewhat,
yeah.
we should have a dynamic offense.
Yes, I agree. And one thing that's really going to help those backs, we have five returning starters on the
Yes,
offensive line. So that is going to
absolutely.
be huge. I really expect our offense to be a lot better because it seemed like we were not tiring out the opposing team's defenses last year. We were
Hmm.
getting a lot of three and outs, and not putting up that many points. So if our defense
Right.
can stay on a similar level as last year, I think our team is looking really good for this year.
Oh yeah. Let me tell you something. If my thing is, you have to convert and you have to move the chains in third down situations. I don't
Yeah,
care what level you're playing on. If you can't convert third downs, it's going to be hard because you do need your defense to get some rest. That's true. At the end of the day, the goal is to put as much pressure on the opposing defense as possible. Be that if it's in the air, if it's on the ground. for me, I love the extension of the running game in, as far as screens, different versions of
Yes.
the screen game. I think that that really helps to spread the defense. There's no way, coming into this season, am I going to say that West Virginia should not be a major factor in our conference because
Yes.
I personally believe with that offensive line being a year older, a year more mature, and I mean all the way around, not only from the IQ part of the game, but I'm talking about physically from being in the weight room another year. All
Yes.
of that stuff, if you put that together, we should have a dynamic offense. We should have a really solid defense. We should be good on special teams, and
Yes.
this could potentially be a special year for the Mountaineers.
I completely agree because I really like what Neil Brown has been doing. I think he's done an excellent job recruiting, and he's just now getting his guys
Right.
older. And we were a young team the last couple of years. So a lot of people that are saying Neil Brown should be fired, which is a lot of people surprisingly. I don't think they realize that we were such a young team, and that these guys got to develop. And I I'm trusting the climb.
Right.
I've bought into Neil Brown.
Let me say this to you. Okay. When I retired from playing, I became a sports agent for about 10 years. And here's the funny thing about being on the other side of it as an agent, right? When you have a client, let's say I didn't get the privilege to coach or to represent a coach. So mine was more athletes and professional entertainers, musicians and recording artists, right?
Yeah.
But if I were to represent a coach, and you come to a program that after 1 or 2 years you're fired before you even get a chance to to coach out your 4 or 5 year contract,
Yes.
that's not going to be a place that I'm going to send a reputable client. And we have to be very careful of that because West Virginia, we've never been the type of program that fires a coach mid-season or shortly thereafter season. If you
Yeah.
look at the tenured coaches in WVU's history, they've always been there for X amount of years, even through their contract, even through 1 or 2 extensions.
Yes.
And that's very important because you're talking about we are a brand that was built on a certain trajectory or a certain level of tradition, so to speak. Neil Brown is doing exactly what Neil Brown is supposed to do. Your first few years, you have to flush out whatever was there prior to you getting there. Figure out your philosophy and how it fits in that particular, within this program and build it within. That means, like you said, going out and bringing in really good high school talent.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I'm not a big transfer portal guy, but
Yeah.
I do understand this is the new wave of college football, college sports, period, not just football, right? So, with that being said, knowing how to navigate that system and make sure you get the right type of talent out of that system, because just because a kid says, I want to transfer to a certain place, doesn't mean that that may be the right fit for that particular kid.
Right.
So, there's a whole bunch of things that go into that. It's not just putting out what you believe to be the best talent on the field. You have to get the right nucleus, put it together, and then see what you have.
Yes.
That takes time.
Yes. And one thing people were, saying talking about with Neil Brown losing people to the transfer portal, but he's only lost one player to the portal that was actually his recruit. So he's kept his recruits here. And
Definitely.
yeah,
Well, check this out. If we've lost, everybody's lost players to the portal.
yeah, everyone is.
Okay.
Yeah,
So because what this is, it's the new version of free agency on the collegiate level.
right.
So that's what it is. I mean, at the end of the day, so I don't really, again, that's not a premise that I really follow because every school has lost players to the transfer portal. That's now
Yes.
this is the nature of the business.
Mhm. So, um, I definitely agree. I think Neil Brown is building something good here, and I think that we're going to have a good couple of years. And I think the future is very bright too, because what I've seen from the guys at the spring game. JT Daniels didn't play in the spring game, but even the quarterback room that we have is
Right.
looking really good. The freshman we brought in, Nico Markiel, he's shown that he has some legs, and whenever WVU is successful, we have a quarterback that can scramble. And
Absolutely.
Major Harris, you played with him. Pat White. I mean, the most
Yep.
successful WVU teams have all had a dual threat quarterback, and I think Nico Markiel could be similar to that guy. I mean, even the teams with Will Greer, whenever he had to, he could
Sure.
scramble. So um, I'm definitely looking forward to the future of this team. I think it's only going to get better from here. If you had to make a prediction of what our record will be this year, what do you think?
Listen, the floor for me, and this might listen, this might put little bit of pressure out there. The floor for me is 8 games.
Yeah, I
Okay.
agree.
The floor for me is 8 games. I don't see us, we should win 8 games handedly. Anything past 8 games, I'm satisfied with, to be completely
Yeah,
honest. The reason why
I,
I say that, because you pretty much, again, it's that nucleus thing again. You have to make sure that everybody's on the same page. I believe that Neil Brown can do that with this particular staff. I believe he does understand you win with character,
yes,
and you win with young people that want to be in your locker room and they want to be in your program. I'm that guy. Again, for me, West Virginia is very special to me and my family. So therefore, if a kid doesn't fit, or he feels as though after 1 or 2 years this is no longer the place, I would prefer, okay, well, go someplace where you may think the grass is greener.
yeah,
But the kids that are in that buy into this program, it's a special place to come to school. It really is.
yes,
You're a student there now, so you understand it.
yeah,
So give me guys that want to be here and that understand what this is, to continue to build on this tradition that we have in Morgantown, and you're going
yes.
to have some special teams.
A lot of teams have college towns, but West Virginia is a college state. There's no professional teams in West Virginia. We got over 1 million people in West Virginia that all support WVU sports. So,
Absolutely, it's a
um,
beautiful thing. Trust me, it is.
yeah. So, I wanted to get your opinion on West Virginia joining the Big 12 in 2012, I think it was. Uh, there have been rumors that we might join the ACC whenever our contract is up. Uh, do you think that would be better for us?
Well, I feel, especially when you talk about, just being able to, like, regionally, obviously,
Yeah,
ACC makes sense because geographically it's a lot closer, obviously, to the schools that we'll be playing, against. And I think for our fan base, it's better
yeah,
economically, obviously, for that part of it. We travel well anyway, but I'm just saying, I think it'll make better sense.
yeah,
When we stepped into the Big 12, initially I was excited because I really wanted people to see West Virginia, the brand, our brand, on that level, consistently playing against those teams that people don't really understand that we historically beat. So,
yeah.
for instance, we beat Oklahoma in numerous occasions. The few times we played
Right.
them, we beat them. Okay, and we beat them handedly.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
for me, I'm always game on saying I'll take our flying WV and match it against any team, right? So, for that one purpose, it was great. Then when you start to see the wear and tear of the fan base and having to go to these different places, yeah, it became an economic thing for our fans. And whenever it becomes an economic thing, for your fans and for your student body, then you kind of have to look at it through a different lens. So the ACC would be a formidable conference.
yeah.
I think we would do very well, obviously, in the recruiting part of it because of
Yes,
the regional recruits and the things of that nature. Um, I've always said this: if you get someone to our campus, we have just as good a chance of getting them to come to WVU than any place else in the country, in my opinion.
right.
So now, with the facilities being what they are, with our fan base being what it is, with the staff being what it is, I really believe if we went to the ACC in a few years, whenever that may be, I think we'll be very formidable in the ACC.
Yes, I 100% agree. I would love for us to join the ACC. What you said about recruiting, forever, the biggest state that we were recruiting in, our top talent was Florida, and now we
Right,
don't play teams from Florida.
right.
So maybe their parents won't get to watch their kids play when they come down to Miami, that's in the ACC, or Florida State. Um, but there is some teams joining the Big 12 that might help. Central Florida is going to be joining. Cincinnati is more regional with us. But overall, I still would love to be in the ACC. We're going to get to play two of our biggest rivalries this year, Pitt and Virginia Tech. They're both in the ACC. But even
Ab-
these other rivalries that aren't really like rivalries, but teams that we've always played, like Louisville, Syracuse, even Miami, that we get to play every year. And it would just, I think, for the fans and for everyone, it would make the games feel even more meaningful in the regular season.
Absolutely. And listen, how much more excited can we get about, you know, a Mountaineer schedule?
Yeah,
But boy, if you couple that with an ACC, conference, woo!
yeah, it would be fun.
Absolutely.
This is one of the most excited teams I've been excited for this season. Like you said, you think 8 wins is your floor. I agree because I think if we go 7-5, I'd be disappointed. So,
Yeah, listen,
uh,
I'm not trying to put no pressure on anybody. I know firsthand how difficult it is to go into into the preseason and building on what you have from the year prior. I understand all of that stuff, but I really believe that this team has a chance to be pretty special. And
yes,
I'm talking about the foundation right now moving forward. So there's no doubt in my mind we should be able to win 8 football games with this roster.
yes. Um, do you think that we are going to be able to beat Pitt? It's been a while since we played them. Backyard Brawl is coming back. They are coming off of a ACC championship year, but they lost
Uh-huh.
their starting quarterback who just got drafted the other night to the
Yeah.
Steelers. So that's
Yep.
pretty cool. They got to stay in
Absolutely.
Pittsburgh, but they're losing their quarterback. There's rumors that they might lose their top wide receiver, which is definitely
Right.
their biggest offensive threat.
Yeah, I've
Um,
seen that. And
uh,
again, look, we're talking about the transfer portal, right?
yes.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not sure if he entered the portal yet. I think the deadline was supposed to be May 1st, but I'm not sure how strict they are about that.
Right.
Um, I think that if they add some more strict rules to the portal, like say after the season for a month, you can enter and then have a hard deadline, it might be a little bit better.
Let me have you laughing about this. And I'm going to go back to the original question about whether we'll beat Pitt.
All right.
I've said this. If you make this what it's supposed to be, student, athlete,
Yes.
and you're going to enter the transfer portal, if you tied the GPA into entering that transfer portal in regards to being eligible at your next stop, I guarantee you
Yes.
that will cut down half this movement by about 40%.
I agree. That is something I haven't thought of yet, and I think I knew that there would have to be some rules, uh, and I think there will be, whether it's in a few years or, but it's probably going to come soon. But
Yeah,
I like that idea.
absolutely. Because let me tell you
Yeah.
something. Everybody can move around all willy nilly, free and whatever. But I guarantee you, if you also made it, the stipulation were okay, you're going to transfer. That's fine. You can transfer into the transfer portal, but you got to have a 3.0 GPA.
Yeah.
Now, because that will make you eligible when you go to your next spot. If you
Yes.
don't have a 3.0 GPA, let's say if you have a 2.5 or 2.75, you can still transfer, but you're going to be ineligible to
Yeah.
compete. Oh, I guarantee you that will cut down on all this movement at least 40%, might be 50%.
Yeah. I agree. I think that would help a lot because I'm not sure the exact numbers, but at one point it was 100 plus players were entering a day in the
Of
transfer
course.
portal. It's
Well,
just crazy.
here's the deal. Okay. Once again, we forgot about what this was supposed to be all about. Student athletes.
Yes.
Now the transfer portal is just about athletes. You take it, and for me, again, a former student athlete myself. My wife is a former student athlete. Our son is a former student athlete. Student athlete.
Yes.
I find it appalling that you can go from one place to the other. You forget the student component, but yeah, you're going to benefit athletically. But what about academically? So for
Right.
me, I'm hard pressed on that. Now I got to answer this quick question about whether or not we're going to listen. I got to get close for this one. Yeah, we're going to beat Pittsburgh.
Yes. Talk about what we were talking about earlier. If we go 7-5, but if we beat Pitt and Virginia Tech, it would make it a little bit less disappointing if we
Well,
can get those wins.
yeah, I think the fans would be able to kind of deal with that. Well, you go 7-5 and you beat Virginia Tech and you beat Pittsburgh and you win a bowl game, then I think they can digest that.
Yeah, I think a lot of fans want to beat Oklahoma because since we've joined the Big 12, we have not beaten Oklahoma.
No,
so
I would listen.
We
I don't
blew it.
I don't understand what that is, but when we wasn't part of the conference, we played and we beat them. Now you're in the conference and I don't know what that is.
Yeah, but last year we had them. We had a few bad snaps, and that one was a heartbreaker. We thought that was going to be the year we took them down, but I think this year, more than ever, we have a really good shot at taking them down. They're coming to Morgantown this year.
Absolutely.
We almost beat them last year in Norman. Yeah, yep. So they're coming to Morgantown. They lost their coach and their quarterback and probably a few other players.
Sure.
So
now I know I'm beating a dead horse here. They lost their quarterback to the transfer portal.
Yep.
So I keep drumming that in because I don't think fans across the country really understand it's not just West Virginia losing players to the transfer portal.
It's every team. Even Oklahoma, who is historically one of the best programs,
Absolutely.
So, going back to the Pitt game, I think the harder challenge might actually be Virginia Tech, even though I don't think Virginia Tech is going to be all that great next season. Mm-hmm. Blacksburg is going to be much tougher to play in than going to Pittsburgh because playing in Pittsburgh it's going to be more like a neutral site game. I feel like WVU fans are going to be there for sure.
Yeah, well, it's different too because now you're playing in at Heinz Stadium.
Yeah,
it was totally different when we played Pitt at Pitt. You understand what I'm saying? It's a little bit vibe when you're playing in a professional stadium versus like when we played Rutgers and we used to play them in the Meadowlands at Giant Stadium. It's just a little bit different. But it's always hard to go into Blacksburg, into Virginia Tech, and play them at home. It's just a different environment. You know what I mean? So I started my career off at Pitt as a freshman back in 1985. So I know both ends of the spectrum when we used to play on campus, at Pitt versus at Heinz Field at this particular point. And it's a great recruiting tool for them to play, where the Steelers play.
Yeah.
But I think you lose a little bit of that camaraderie. You lose a little bit of that, that college feel when you're playing in such a huge stadium and you're not selling that thing out, obviously. So you know what I mean? It's just a little bit, like I said, it's a little bit of a different mentality.
And that's the thing that I've had, bringing up a new topic. I haven't really been a fan of all these neutral-sided games that are being scheduled. Right. I think the college game should be played on a college campus.
Absolutely.
I know a few years ago, forget what year it was, back when we had Kevin White on our team, we played Alabama, I think, in Atlanta, Georgia.
Yes.
And that was like the Chick-fil-A kickoff game, and I think they do that every year. So, and big rivalry games like Georgia versus Florida, I'm pretty sure every year they play that neutral-sided.
Right.
So,
it's an interesting thing. You know what? Again, college sports is now semi-pro
Right.
when it comes to the TV games and the maturation of the monies and all this kind of stuff. So it's just, again, it's just such a different era than what it was all these years ago when I played, back in the mid 80s. Jesus, it's just so different. Even getting into the coaches' salaries and all this kind of stuff, it's just such a different game.
Yeah.
So much more money as far as the TV monies are concerned in these bowls, and it totally different.
Right. I have this opinion that I've talked about on my channel before where I think they need to lower the amount of bowl games. And I know they probably won't because it brings them so much money.
Right.
But if you go, maybe the cap can be 8-4, you make a bowl game. I feel like that makes the bowl games a little bit more meaningful than all these uh, bowl games. Like you can go 6-6. I mean, last year we had teams didn't play in their bowl games. We had a few 5-7 teams playing in bowl
Yeah.
games.
Listen, I can't agree with you more. I've always been an ultra competitor,
Right.
so I like to match the best with the best. And I get it. The floor is so low, but it's always been that. You win 6 games, it makes you bowl eligible.
Yeah.
Now, is that to say, you know, a good six win team, depending on the conference you come out of, it really does depend.
Yeah.
Because most bowl committees, they would take a team that's 6-6 from the SEC
Right.
against a team that might be 9-3 from another conference because their perception is obviously the SEC is such a difficult conference. You're beating up on each other. So if you win 6 tough games in that conference, the perception, right?
Hmm.
You should be better than a 9-3 team coming from a smaller conference or in their mind a less competitive conference.
Right.
That may or may not be true. I don't know. But that is definitely one of the mindsets that goes into this whole recipe of how we going to get, you know, who we're going to pick for a bowl, 6-6 versus 9-3, depending on the power of the conference that you're coming out of. I'm with you. Listen, let's even raise the bar just a little bit of a notch, right? Let's say now it's 7 games versus 6 games. I think that
Yeah.
does make that even that one game I think makes a bigger difference when you're talking about playing competitive bowl games.
Yeah. I have that opinion, but then again, I do love watching all the bowl games come bowl season, even the 6-6 teams. Uh,
Hmm.
but one other thing I wanted to talk to you about is the college football playoff. It's now 4 teams. They're talking about expanding again. Um, Back when you played, they didn't have a playoff. It wasn't even the BCS championship yet. It was the coaches poll and the AP
Right.
poll. They
That's right.
decided. Um, so which system do you like better? Do you like the system back when you played, the BCS computer generalized version, or the college football playoff?
No, I definitely like, and again, I definitely like the system that I came from.
Yeah.
I felt like you had the truest opportunity to see who was who. One was legitimately one, two was legitimately two.
Yeah.
And that's just what it was. Um, like anything else, anything that's computer generated for me, there's a chance for error because there's a human element to this game that has to be, also factored in. And I don't care if the computer generates 1 to 2% of that. No, there is a human element to this
Yeah.
that a computer is not going to be doesn't have that capability. Um, I know, and you know why the system is predicated the way that it is, because again, it comes down to the almighty dollar. We understand that.
Yes.
But if you're talking about the purity of the sport, I would rather go back to the system, and we won't. This is just us talking
Yeah.
from where I came from. To me, I thought that was a much more, clearer cut and a much purer system to get a national champion out of, in my opinion.
Right. I think the main reason they decided to extend the playoffs was mainly the group of five teams. They were going undefeated.
Hmm.
A lot of fans, wanted to see how they would stack up against the top dogs. Like we've seen Boise State, especially
Hmm.
TCU before they joined the Big 12, and made a few big runs, but didn't get that opportunity. But then again, they got those opportunities in big time bowls. It may have not been the championship game, but they got to play in the Fiesta Bowl,
Sure.
uh, bowls like that. And one of the best games I've ever watched was Boise State upsetting Oklahoma in the
Yeah.
Fiesta Bowl. That was awesome. And
Absolutely.
we got to see it this year, Cincinnati playing Alabama in the
Yep.
playoff. And I think that it, it was a closer game than the score
Absolutely.
said.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I don't know if a group of five team is ever really going to be able to win the championship, no matter how far they extend the playoffs.
Well, I could agree with you on two levels. First off, you're talking about, again, recruiting.
Yeah,
Now, it's different, and I'm hoping that the playing ground will be leveled sooner than later, because here's what I'm thinking, right? You're talking about Georgia, Alabama, like premier schools that every year they're going to continue to get Clemson. They're going to continue to get, and I'm not a star guy. I don't like the star system either. So I'm totally old school. Let me be clear.
yeah,
But I'm talking about the reality of where we are now with college sports in general, right?
yeah,
If you continue to get, if your first string tailback is a 5 star, the second string guy is a 5 star, the third string guy is a 5 star, the fourth string guy is a 4 star. Okay, you're going for deep with 4 kids that have been nationally recruited.
right,
That's a fact. Nationally recruited. When you take that and you span it across your whole offense, quarterback, wide receiver, offensive line, okay, now you flip to the defense side of the ball and you do the same thing on the defense side of the ball. I don't care who you play. Consistently, when you wear those guys down in the third and fourth quarters and you throw in your second and third teams, you're still putting in 5 star talent. Now, I know I just got finished saying I don't believe in the star system. With that being said, that means you're going to probably the hotbeds around the country and you're recruiting the best kids year in and year out. There can be an argument made for kids who, if they don't have the money to go to these different camps during the off season, right? Doesn't mean, because the start, even that thing is somewhat jaded based on what
yeah,
camps you go to, what camps you're invited to, who sees you, the eyeball test. That, doesn't necessarily mean that that kid is truly a 5 star kid, or that kid truly played against what perceivably is 5 star talent week in and week out in his particular county, state, whatever.
yeah,
My son, I coached, and my son went to one of the most prestigious high schools in the country. He went to St. Peter's Prep in Jersey City. Every single year, they're going to have 2 or 3 high school Americans. Now, we play a national schedule. So 9 times out of 10, you're being tested week in and week out outside of our state and outside of our county games, where you're playing against other Division I recruited kids that are national recruits. That's a little
right,
different measuring stick. You understand where I'm going with this?
yeah,
That's a little different measuring stick when you're going against maybe a school that they don't have a D1 athlete on that roster. Maybe they have a kid that's good enough, and maybe he's a Division II kid. Not to knock a division. What I'm saying is that should be the measuring stick, not the fact that we're giving out stars.
right,
Let it happen on the field. Let it happen in the spirit of competition. I'm good with that,
yeah,
because there are kids. I remember there was a school that recruited my son. My son was a high school American quarterback coming out of St. Peter's Prep. We visited a school, and I'll never forget this. I'll make it real quick, right? On the coach's desk, there was a list of about 20 names. And I'm looking at the list, and it had nothing next to it, just names. So before we left the meeting, I
right,
said, Coach, what is that? I'm sorry. Like, what is that? He said, oh, I'm glad you asked, Mr. Napoleon. You know what that is? All of those guys are in the NFL, active right now in the NFL. None of those kids had any stars coming out of high school.
Wow.
There's about 20 of them, no lie, right? Yeah. And my son's eyes got this big. And he said, because we didn't get into recruiting stars, we got into recruiting players. And he did that purposely. Yeah. He leaves that sheet on his desk purposely because he's hoping someone would ask that very question.
Right. Yeah, I mean, some of the better players in the NFL right now were no star, 1 star, 2 stars out of high school. Off the top of my head, Aaron Donald, I'm pretty sure he was a 2-star recruit and he went to Pitt.
Right.
I think Khalil Mack, 2 of the best pass rushers in the NFL right now.
Well, I'll give you something that's interesting. My nephew is Deion Dawkins, a starting left tackle for the Buffalo Bills. So he played at Rahway High School, Rahway, New Jersey. Yeah. Wasn't considered what you would say was a massive recruit, but he's an all-pro left tackle starting in NFL. Okay? Yeah. Went to Temple and was a second-round draft pick. So my point is, it's not about the stars. It's about the talent. It's about the work ethic. It's about the consistency of putting a good product on the field and you playing your butt off and working diligently to be the best player that you can be. That's what it's about. Because if you go and research this, how many 5-star, 4-star kids don't pan out compared to the number that everybody thinks are going to pan out because they are a 4-star or 5-star kid?
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I could not agree more. I completely agree. And going back to the original topic with all this, it involves the portal too, with how Cincinnati made the playoff. The year before this past year that they made the playoff, they were a really good team, barely missed out on the playoffs. And I think a lot of these players that entered the portal knew that going to Cincinnati means they have a good chance of making the playoff if they can go undefeated, because preseason they were ranked top 10.
Right.
So I think a lot of those players knew that if they go to Cincinnati, I know that they had a few guys that transferred from Alabama to there. They got some pickups that way. And to me, for the group of 5 schools, for Cincinnati, it worked out good. They're going to be in the Power 5, going to be in the Big 12 here soon.
Yeah.
But for the majority of the group of 5 teams, the transfer portal really hurts them, because if they have a star player that broke out one year, he's probably going to transfer to a Power 5 school.
Unfortunately, but yeah, very true. I'll even go one better than that. Check this out. You remember the young man, the stud? He just got drafted the other night as well. The running back from Michigan State.
Yeah, Kenneth Walker.
Right. Now, he didn't start at Michigan State, actually.
Yeah.
Started at Wake Forest, right?
Yeah.
Now, what happened? What did Wake Forest not see? It could have been a few different things. It could have been the fit. Maybe he didn't fit in that particular style of offense. Apparently he didn't, because you come in, it was an immediate impact. Immediate. His first game, first carry to the house. So
yeah,
I think a lot of times, once again, it can be opportunity. This young man obviously needed a different opportunity to play in, a different offensive system to play in, different belief system, maybe with the staff. And that's not to knock, Wake Forest, because obviously they had a real successful season as well. But my point is, that's a glaring miss.
Yeah.
So, and again, we're talking about the transfer portal.
Yes.
So,
yeah. I mean, I just think how much better could Wake Forest have been if they had him. They could have won the ACC this year.
Listen, there's no doubt in my mind. This kid, what? Did he wind up leading the country in rushing?
If not, he was up there.
Right, and I believe now he won the Doak Walker Award, correct?
Yeah.
So hands down, you don't lose that kid to the transfer portal.
Yeah,
Just saying.
I agree. um, and so yeah, the transfer portal, it it can be a double-edged sword in ways, but for these group of 5 teams, I don't think it's even that. I think it's just not very good for them.
No,
Um,
I agree.
yeah.
I agree.
So
I'm hoping that these young people understand something too. Look, if you establish yourself at a school and you think that the grass is greener, I'm not sure what they're looking at or what they're being told or who's in their ear, but you got to understand there are kids there at this other university as well that's been recruited the same way you've been recruited. If you already established yourself and you put good film out there already, why leave?
yeah,
I see for me as a business move, my thing would be if I'm a 2 year starter or I had a breakout year my first year starting, and the expectations are obviously, God willing, you come back and now you're going into your second year as a starter. You already established yourself. You made all conference, whatever the case may be. It makes no sense to leave that situation because
right.
you've already established your footprint there.
And we
Now,
were
just
talking,
because you go someplace else doesn't mean that you're going to get that same opportunity because there may be somebody else sitting there in the wings waiting as well because it's all about competition at the end of the day.
yeah, and like we were talking about earlier, Jordan Addison at Pitt, he was the number 1 wide receiver last season, and he's talking about transferring. I mean, no matter where he's at, he's going to be projected really early as a first round draft pick next year.
I
So
believe so. I
yeah,
listen. I think he's phenomenal. I think he's a phenomenal talent.
yeah,
But that's a prime example. I mean, and again, I don't know what's going on in his situation, so I don't want to speak to it. But I do know this. That's a great point of reference you just brought up. You are the guy right now,
yeah,
and you may be the guy wherever else you transfer to. But unless there's, and who knows what that situation is. But boy, would be a colossal loss for Pitt if he decided to transfer.
yeah. And I think, he's established himself, but even if we're talking a level lower than that, because obviously he is a star in college football, I think
Sure.
the lower level players, if they've established themselves as a starter, I think that that's where it doesn't really make sense to transfer once you've established yourself as a true starter at your school.
Absolutely.
Because,
No, I would agree. You've seen cases where kids transfer and they think the grass is greener, and you
yeah,
go someplace else and all of a sudden it doesn't work out. Now you're ticked off.
yeah. And cover a lot of college basketball as well. And what just happened this week with college basketball, we had a guy who left in the transfer portal to Washington, and now he's coming back this year, Emmett Matthews. So
Well, listen, again, the grass not always greener. It look real quick that this analogy applies to this as well. We live right next. If we live next door to each other, and I don't cut my grass for 3 weeks, and you cut yours,
yeah,
if a dog comes, whose grass you think he's going to go to?
yeah,
Probably mine.
yeah,
Because there's a lot more roughage there, but the grass is not necessarily always greener. It's still grass at the end of the day. It's all about perception. You lose a young man someplace because he's thinking it might be better over there, or whatever the case may be, or they come to a place because they're thinking it might be better. You don't know until you get there.
right. Um, Another topic that I wanted to discuss with you is how do you think we stack up? I know we talked about the floor for us was 8 wins this year,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and I agree with that. How do we stack up against these other top teams in the Big 12? Do you think that we could win the Big 12 this year? Um, or of course, Oklahoma State and Baylor, Oklahoma are probably the projected top 3 teams in the conference.
I would think. Um, there's a lot of things that would have to fall into place for that to happen, obviously.
Yeah.
I can tell you this. I don't think any of the so-called experts slash critics are going to pick West Virginia to do anything this year, which is perfect. That's fine by me.
Yeah.
They didn't know how good we were when we wound up going 11-0 back in the mid '80s and playing for national championship either. So,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, great job, expert. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of things that's going to have to fall into place for us, and I think if we come out the gate and you have things in order, meaning that the defense is playing at a level where they're progressing each week the way that they should, and your special teams and again your offense is getting better each week because we're in that type of conference where obviously scoring points is very important. There's nothing in my head that's going to say that we won't have a shot with this particular team of again competing. You win 8 to 9 games, that puts you in the thick of things.
Yeah.
That definitely puts you in the conversation of of potentially playing for a conference championship. So that's why I'm
Right.
saying our floor for me is 8 games. Because if we win 8, 9 games, 10 games, let me tell you something. That
Yeah.
means again we're on the upper echelon of the conference versus the lower part of the conference.
Right.
And
And
at that point, the ball can bounce any which way for us. And I would rather be in that position than where we have been in years past.
right. And I don't see any team in the Big 12 making the college football playoff again this year. So I think maybe if we can get to 10 games, we may
Mhm.
be able to play in the Big 12 championship game
It's funny you say
if we can
that.
get there.
In the back of my head, that's where I was. In the back of my head, I said the floor is 8.
Yeah.
I really believe we can win 10 football games.
I think maybe the hardest game we have on our schedule is probably going to be the last game of the regular season at Stillwater in
Yeah,
Oklahoma State. Even if we lose that game, if it's our second loss, we might get a rematch against them in the Big 12 championship.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I can definitely see that. And I would listen. I would definitely applaud that.
Yes.
If that works out to be the scenario, oh yeah, I'm happy.
I would be happy with that too. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Uh,
happy with that outcome.
I think if we can win 8 to 9 games, win a bowl game, I would be happy. And the quarterbacks, aren't looking too great in the Big 12 this year. You have Dylan Gabriel who transferred to Oklahoma,
Yep.
but JT Daniels he could potentially be, you know, one of the best quarterbacks in the conference. Of course, we didn't see him much last year. He had the injuries,
Right.
um, but we've seen what he can do, and uh, he we have Graham Harrell as our offensive coordinator. That used to be his coach back when he was at USC, his
Yep.
quarterbacks coach.
Yep.
Um, so he kind of knows the system, and we're returning all 5 offensive line starters, like we said earlier, to protect him. So hopefully he doesn't get injured.
Right.
If he can stay healthy, and we use our running backs, we use Graham Harrell's high-powered offense, and our defense is going to benefit off that as well. And if they can, do what they did last year with the help they're getting from the offense, I believe that we can at least make the Big 12 championship game.
Let me tell you something. It'll be very, very interesting to see how that would pan out. But I'm optimistic that with a healthy quarterback, with a real strong rotation at tailback, with a veteran offensive line, and with a solid defense, and with a really good special teams,
Yes,
anything is possible.
yes. Um, One thing about our special teams, I do think we have a good kicker, uh, Casey Legg. The return game is going to look a little different. Uh, you return kicks for us. Um, is there anyone on our roster you're seeing as being that guy? Of course, we lost our speed threat. Can't even think of his name right now to the portal this
Yeah,
year. Uh,
yeah, I saw that, and Yeah. I think this, you know what? That's a position that could potentially be filled with some younger players that have the ability. That's that's one of them positions where I did it as a tailback, and we had myself, and every now and again you had Andre Johnson back there with me on the other side. So it's an interesting position to be in because yeah, those guys typically you're a high skill guy, you got speed and you got elusiveness or whatever the case may be. But this is why I'm saying I really believe Neil Brown. I believe in his vision and what he wants to do because I think we have enough skill guys that will do very well in the punt game and in the kickoff return game because I think he's starting to see this lane for certain individuals. And for instance, you got four legitimate backs.
Yes.
And if whoever's not the starter, the bell cow for 15 to 18 to 20 plus carries a game, you got one or two of them that can definitely return kickoffs. You
Yes.
got some DBs that can definitely return kickoffs or punts. You got some receivers that can definitely, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
there's a bevy of talent, is what I'm saying, that I think West Virginia has that, if developed, that's another plus in my opinion. That's another feather in the cap because you have enough skilled players to put any one of those positions back there and be productive.
Right. Yeah. And I was watching an interview of Graham Harrell, and they were talking about the running backs, and he talked about each one of them having a role in the offense, and he didn't really clarify what the roles were. But I was at the spring game, and we got the transfer from Clemson, Lynn J. Dixon. I think
Right.
he only got 2 or 3 handoffs, but all of them were in the red zone, and that's somewhere where we struggled last year, was finishing with the touchdown in the red zone.
Right.
And his first carry he got in that spring game, he scored a touchdown on, I think it was first and goal. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of thinking that might be his role, is a red zone running back.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that could be a role. I think our main guy is going to be Tony Mathis,
Yeah.
and he's really good. And
He is very.
and then we have 2 other guys, Justin Johnson, who is a speedy guy. I could see him potentially returning kicks. And then the freshman that we brought in, uh, Jalen Anderson, I believe his name
Yeah.
is.
Mm-hmm.
So, um,
A lot of talent.
yes. So I'm hoping with these roles he has for them, he's able to utilize all this talent.
I was just getting ready to say, not only utilize it, but not be afraid to mix and match to make sure you get
Yes.
the best out of each of them. Once
Yes.
again, I was fortunate to play in a system like that where myself, AB, like I said, Andre Johnson and Craig Taylor, although he played fullback, Craig Taylor had tailback a tailback skill set. So
Yeah.
we were fortunate, it's just one of them positions, Rico Tyler and these guys. It's just one of them positions where when you have so many backs, any one of us could have ran for 1,000, had 1,000 yard season. Any one of us, because really all of us averaged about 5 yards a carry. So you
Right.
think about it, if in literally 5 yards or more a carry. So if we're carrying the ball 18, 19 times a game over 11, 12 game season, you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but that wasn't, none of us had 1,000 yards in our career because we all shared the football.
Yeah.
So Don Nealon did a masterful job in that. I think in to each his own, the styles of which you come from, but when you are really fighting for each other and you want the best for each other, that's where that whole camaraderie, that whole team thing comes in. That whole that camaraderie. Win football games like that because you know when I was in, AB was rooting for me. When he was in, I was rooting for him. Same thing with Andra. Same thing. That's what it is. It's the
Yes.
better good of the team. It's not being selfish.
Yeah. And I hope our guys can have that. And I hope Graham Harrell, even though he's an air-rated guy, we've seen a lot of that in the spring game as well. He was airing it out, 20 plus yard passes really, really often. So I hope with that he can utilize all these backs, maybe even have some two back sets, whether it's one of them blocking for the other or one going out on a screen pass or anything like that.
Definitely.
Really hoping. I think if we can utilize all this talent, then our offense it could be one of the best offenses in the Big 12 for sure.
Listen, I know one thing for sure. I'm looking forward to it.
Me too.
I'm looking forward to it.
This definitely should be the best offense we've seen under Neil Brown.
Yeah.
And Neil Brown, ever since he's got here, we've had a good defense. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
I don't expect that to change, but I do expect our offense to be high powered for sure.
Yeah. So I guess we can take some of the viewers' questions if they have any, and then we can wrap it up. But while they are asking their questions, I want to make sure everyone knows there is a link in the chat right here. Go subscribe to Eugene Napoleon on YouTube. Is there anywhere else that they can find you that you want to let them know?
Well, for Napoleon's Corner, it's on YouTube. You can also find it. It's actually on Mountaineer Maven. So that's the Sports Illustrated site, and with Scholar Callahan. So those are the two places you can find it. And I want to thank you for posting the link. Thank you so very much. And for all the fans and everybody that's watching this, please go and like and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you for the support.
Yeah, everyone go subscribe to Napoleon's Corner on YouTube. The link is in the chat. And whether you're watching this live or you're watching it as a video later, make sure you guys go do that because it will be in the description also. So
thank you. I appreciate that. Thanking everybody in advance.
Yep. And yeah, I don't see any questions yet. So is there anything else you would like to add before we end it?
Listen, I want to first off, again, I want to thank you. I want to send a shout out to our guy Joey.
Yes.
Thank you very much. You know, that's our guy. He's a good dude. I'm going to send a shout out to my beautiful wife, the talented Tracy Napoleon, aka Naya NY''A. We have a new single coming out probably within the next 2 weeks. It's called On the Daily, and it was produced by my cousin. For those music historians and lovers, Jared Cortez / Eternal was part of the legendary group PM Dawn. So PM Dawn was one of the most successful hip hop R&B groups of all time back in the mid 90s, early 2000s. So we were just blessed to be part of a TV One special. Matter of fact, April 3rd, Unsung on TV One. They did a whole piece on PM Dawn. My wife and I both was featured in that episode. So he produces my wife's music, and he produced the last single, which was Chillin' With My Baby, which was a #1 record in 80 countries. And this new single, we are really excited about it. Again, it's called On the Daily. It'll be released worldwide in about 2 weeks. So giving a shout out to her. And of course, our son Brandon, giving a shout out to him, and his beautiful wife Nicole, and our grandson Amari and Gigi. We love you. We love you guys, and just very, very happy that the family unit is a cohesive unit, and we're thanking God for everything.
Yes, and thank you again for coming on. You were my first big guest that I had on the channel. I really appreciate you coming on. I appreciate Joey for hooking it up. He's been a big help for my channel the past few weeks, and we actually do have some questions coming in real quick before we get out of here.
Definitely, not a problem.
Say, hi, do you guys think college football is heading to an 8 or 12 team playoff? And do you think we are heading towards super conferences?
Mm, that's a
So,
great question. Unfortunately, I definitely do think it's heading. They're going to expand the playoffs, and I know they are,
yeah,
just because it again, it's the bottom line. It's a money thing, and the super conferences. I see that coming because I see the NCAA is at, there really is no more control over anything per se. So I think with the other schools feeling a little bit, you know, kind of we're not really getting our fair just due. I do see schools breaking off into their own conferences and building their own conference. So
yes.
that wouldn't surprise me, and I see that coming sooner than later.
I definitely think the playoff will be expanded, and I think maybe the new Power Five might be a Power Three here soon. Uh, Unfortunately, I think there might be huge conferences, whether it's the SEC, Big
Right.
Ten, and probably the ACC. Those three.
Yep.
Um, I think it might get to that, but I definitely think the playoff expansion will happen. We have one coming in from Kuz's corner. He says, "Ask Eugene if he thinks WVU and Marshall should play other uh, each other in football on a regular basis."
I would love to see
So
that. I really would, especially now with Marshall. I mean, the direction that they're going with their new staff. Excuse me. I think that will be awesome. Um, that camaraderie alone would be good. I think for the state of West Virginia personally.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'd love to see WVU and Marshall play each other. Marshall has been better
Yep.
the past few years, so that program is heading in a good direction. I'm pretty sure they're changing conferences here soon. I think they're going from Conference USA to
Yep.
the Sun Belt.
I believe
Uh,
yes. I
so
did read that somewhere. Yeah. Yep.
so that will be good for them. They'll get to play teams like uh, Appalachian State, Coastal
Mhm.
Carolina, who are programs that are doing pretty good stuff.
Absolutely.
Uh, so yeah, that's all for the questions. Again, thank you for coming on the show. I
You
appreciate
got
you.
it. I
And
appreciate you as well. And I'm gonna say this. I look forward to coming back on your platform.
hey, thank you. I appreciate it. Anytime, anytime. I'm sure we can get Joey. He'll hook it up.
You got it. You
Yep.
got it.
All right. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Go subscribe to Napoleon's Corner on YouTube. And out here.